Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Week 1 is fast approaching, and I'm going to break down the quarterback position today. We're going to look at as many different quarterbacks that are available on the entire 13-game main slate, that position only. But I need to stress this to you. Please understand that we are still at cruising altitude. We are at 36,000 feet. We are nowhere near coming in for a landing. That is not until we're not in final descent until the Friday leading up to week 1, after the Thursday night football game. We are still at cruising altitude. So I'm going to take kind of an overarching view here. We're going to look at it in terms of kind of tiers, the players that are projected at the higher end of the scoring table, the middle of the scoring table, then the lower end of the scoring table. I'm not really all that concerned yet with points per dollar. I'm just going to discuss all the different quarterbacks on the slate, break them down, give you my thoughts on them and the game environment that they are in. So thank you guys for being here, and let's go.
He's a legend.
Go check out everything that they have over at rotowire.com. They have provided us a very limited time offer for a all access pass to everybody that is a part of the Smiz Gang community. Right down in the pinned comment, you can use smizzle.tv/rotowire and get a 2-day all access pass to everything that they have over at RotoWire. If your draft is coming up, perfect. Go check out their 2022 fantasy football draft kit. They have tons of value information, ADP reports, bunch of sleepers, auction values. You can enter your own league stats to print out the exact cheat sheet that you need for your draft. So if your draft is coming up against your friends and family, definitely go check out the RotoWire promo that we have running right now. It's going to expire soon, right after week 1 kickoff. So get in there and support the people that support us here on the channel. I'm going to start over on the DraftKings sportsbook here. We're going to look at the different games and what's out there in terms of over-unders, because that is a greater predictor of quarterback scoring, right? The team total that they have. So the Philadelphia Eagles favored by 4, over under 48 against the Detroit Lions. The Ravens -7. Usually teams that are favored by over 7 tend to be playing by from ahead more often than not. Leads to more run script. And then obviously a team like the Ravens, which is a run script team to begin with, now playing up against a backup quarterback. I have faith in this team. We'll talk about it in just a little bit. San Francisco 49ers, same sort of team, even lower total on this one. How much are they going to throw the ball? The Steelers against the Bengals. Bengals at home, favored by 6.5. Steelers defense, not as toothy, not as scary as it has been in the past. Over under 45. Saints Falcons, 40.5. Not much scoring expected in this one. Patriots 44.5. Miami Dolphins favored in that one. Close game expected here. Colts, big expectation over the Texans. I'm going to talk about this when I get to Matt Ryan, because the chalk is going to be obviously on Jonathan Taylor. And then the easiest leverage pivot on the slate is probably Matt Ryan tournament lineups, not cash tournament lineups. The Commanders, I'm not going to get used to saying that. It's going to take me probably all season going against the Jaguars. A lot of love right now for the Jaguars passing game after the preseason that they've kind of been having. We'll take a look at Lawrence's price tag. We'll take a look at the Commanders. We'll see about Wentz and everything there. Cleveland Browns against the Carolina Panthers. Panthers just named this morning Baker Mayfield as their starting quarterback in the quarterback competition between him and Sam Darnold. Shocking that Baker won that one. Shocking. This is my shocked face. Giants 6-point dogs to the Tennessee Titans. Daniel Jones looked good in that last preseason game. The Chiefs against the Cardinals. 53 is the total here. We have the 3 highest totaled games on the slate coming later. That's one of them. Raiders Chargers at 51.5 and Packers Vikings at 48. The 3 highest totaled games. I think this is where most are going to come from. So let's take a look over here. Patrick Mahomes, he's good at football. We're going to start with the top tier of guys, not necessarily top tier of salaries, but let's take a look at the top tier quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes is in that top tier of expected scoring. As I said, they're in the highest totaled game on the day. Arizona, always going to be good weather earlier in the season. Obviously, all the retractable roofs are guaranteed good weather. Fast track there. Kyler Murray looks to have a good season. I think that he has got there's a big old chip right here on Kyler's shoulder. It's going to force that offense. The Chiefs are, in my opinion, one of the 3 teams that are most likely to be a fantasy carnival, like we've talked about on this channel the past few years, have been the Dallas Cowboys. A really high-powered, tough-to-guard offense with a defense that's going to allow a lot of points, forcing the offense to score a lot of points, leading to massive high-scoring environments and and shootout situations that are perfect for us in tournaments in daily fantasy. So the Chiefs are one of the three, and the Cardinals are another one of the three. The Cowboys still in that carnival tier of really good offense, subpar defense. The Cardinals lost a whole lot of players off of that defense and did not replace them. The talent is much lower than it has been in the past. So like the Cardinals offense, really tough to stop. The Chiefs offense, really tough to stop. Both defenses, really tough for them to stop any opposing offense, let alone a high powered, like 60 to 65 total real life points could easily fall out of this game. Mahomes and Kyler are two of my favorite quarterbacks on this slate. From a stacking perspective, from a tournament perspective, they're a little bit pricey for cash games, but like I said, we're at cruising altitude. I'm not really going to focus in on this is the cash game play for week one just yet. That's not what we're really going to focus on just yet. But Kyler Murray, another player, especially early in the season, we see Kyler Murray pop a whole lot more in terms of his total fantasy points. Two reasons, right? One, the meme reason. Call of Duty doesn't come out until week 8. So his scores are higher before Call of Duty comes out. Two, he's also gotten injured pretty much each of the last 2 seasons right around that mid mark, and they utilize him and deploy him differently in those games. He runs a lot less in those games. On average, he's been getting his 6 to 9 targets, 6 to 9 rush attempts, which has been extremely nice for fantasy purposes, and contributing a lot on the ground. Like you see here, last year he had less touchdowns because rushing touchdowns are not as sticky from one year to the next as passing statistics are, but he's also throwing the ball a ton and easily convertible targets to catches, as evidenced by his 80%, 82%, 75% completion percentage, because Cliffy calls a horizontal raid, which is he throws it left and right and never throws it north and south, hopefully more north than south. But Kyler Murray, now in his 3rd year running this offense, now we've got a position where maybe he's going to be calling more plays. He just called 2 drives in the preseason that ended in touchdowns. Cliffy did not call a drive that game that ended in a touchdown. Maybe they give Kyler the reins a little bit more now that he's got a little bit more fluency with this offense, a lot more talent on the outside, bringing in Hollywood Brown. When they get Nuke Hopkins back later in the year, that offense really is going to thrive, because that offense requires a lot of talent on the outside for it to operate. And now they kind of finally have that level, or will have it in full as a fully operational battle station later in the year. The most interesting quarterback for week one, the one that's going to cause the most discussion when week one gets here, is going to be Jalen Hurts. I expect him to be, depending on what site it is that you're going to use for your week one projections, whether it's ETR, whether it's Fantasy Labs, whether it's rotogrinders, or anywhere else, Jalen Hurts is going to be 1, 2, or 3 in terms of expected fantasy points from a median projection standpoint. And he may end up the optimal cash game play. Don't know yet. It might be him. It might be somebody else who we'll get to a little bit later. But when it comes to a tournament, the way that Jalen Hurts produces fantasy points is way different from the way that other players produce fantasy points. Like the way that a Joe Burrow produces fantasy points is way different from the way that Jalen Hurts produces fantasy points. The way that Joe Burrow produces fantasy points on his days where he provides a tournament winning type game, week 16 last year, week 17 last year, 30 catches, 37 catches, 4 touchdowns, and a very narrow band of receivers that he's going to throw the ball to. So it's easy to stack him. 30 points here in this week, 416 yards, 23 catches, 3 touchdowns. You probably can predict who was on the receiving end of those passes, yards, and touchdowns. And it's different when you look at it through the lens of how is Jalen Hurts going to produce those fantasy points. Now, I do believe that they have beefed up this passing game in the offseason. I also believe that they're going to throw a little bit more trust Jalen Hurts' way, but I don't expect this to be a really, really high volume passing offense. If Jalen Hurts puts in a tournament winning week, a week where he's going to score 30 plus DraftKings points, on those weeks, he is more likely to have multiple passing touchdowns, over 300 yards, 25 or more caught passes, to be able to sustain a double stack. Hurts is more of a type of passer that he can get you 30 points and not do that, which is the danger. 13 receptions in this game for 147 yards. If you double stacked him, you were probably drawing dead. If you single stacked him, you're probably drawing dead. because the other quarterbacks who produced points like that probably correlated with a couple of pass catchers that went along with him. So Jalen Hurts is way more of a cash game quarterback consideration for me than he is going to be a tournament consideration for me, because of what can be brought along with him. Now, if I project 40 plus pass attempts in a week from Jalen Hurts, then yes, I believe that I can double stack Jalen Hurts. If you're playing like 100-man games, you don't really need to double stack in the 100-man games. Go ahead, single stack Jalen Hurts with a bring back, and you get that really high floor ceiling combination for tournaments. So that's my entire rant on him. Now, Justin Herbert, another one of the high total games, another one of the late games. Justin Herbert with at 7,600. The DraftKings Sportsbook favorite to lead the league in terms of passing touchdowns. We saw him have multiple touchdowns last year in a whole hell of a lot of games. I think his consistency is going to rise this year from where it was last year. I also think that his ceiling being that 300 yards passing bonus, multiple touchdowns in games. He is not a running quarterback, but he is mobile enough to put points on the board there. You're not playing him because of his rushing ability, but he does have that ability to throw for 4 touchdowns and score 1 on the ground and get you not only points for him, but sustain 2 pass catchers on the other side. And you add to the fact that he's got a pass catching back in Austin Eckler. It gives you 3 very solid receiving options. And there's a 4th one, as Josh Palmer has had a fantastic preseason. A lot of people expecting him to take a leap forward this season. He has shown nothing but great things so far in the preseason. We talked about Lamar Jackson, very similar to me, to like a Jalen Hurts. Although this Ravens offense did throw the ball a lot more last year. I love 40 attempt Lamar Jackson. Love 40 attempt Lamar Jackson. Way better than 20 attempt Lamar Jackson. For 20 to 25 attempt Lamar Jackson to have a tournament winning day. He scored 37 fantasy points this day, but he didn't bring people along with him. So if you double stack Lamar Jackson on that day, if you single stack Lamar Jackson on that day, you had to be perfect with your single stack in that game. It's probably a better idea to stack Patrick Mahomes with a couple of his pass catchers and bring it back with one of Lamar's pass catchers. Because yeah, you can get these raw points here, but the ones that are going to be attached to that in terms of tournaments, totally different story. Lamar Jackson is a cash gameplay. Love him because of his rushing floor that he gives us, the rushing touchdown upside. But if you're going to play him in tournaments, every time that he's won, that he's been a player that can win a tournament, he's brought along other pass catchers. You think back to that 2019 season when he won the MVP award, and he was not throwing the ball a lot either that season, but he was hyper efficient. Like the game against Miami where he threw like 20 passes, but for 5 touchdowns, 2 of them really long ones to Marquise Brown, where like he's bringing along guys with him and they're not getting there on volume, because efficiency, not volume, is what leads to quarterback scoring. But when you have a hyper efficient quarterback who also throws for a ton of volume, not unlike an Aaron Rodgers, you get games where you can win tournaments by double stacking that guy. And again, this game is another great spot because it is one of the 3 highest total games on the slate. And bringing him back, where's the, there, this, we'll go over here, we'll go to here, Green Bay, Minnesota. Kirk Cousins, 900 cheaper. 900 cheaper than Aaron Rodgers in this situation. I think that they're going to be the contrarian favorite play in the late slate, either player, whether it's Rodgers or Cousins. I think that Cousins is probably more palatable because it allows you to get shares of Justin Jefferson, to get somebody in the Green Bay passing game or one of the pass catching running backs from this spot, as well as bringing along another secondary stack with 2 players from opposing sides who have big time ability, of pulling each other along as well, where you don't have to depend on the quarterback because of how cheap Cousins is in comparison to all of the Mahomes, Herbert, Jackson, Murray, Rodgers, 6,800 and up. He's an entire price tier down with similar upside. Another player in that price range is Trey Lance. So along the same lines as what I said about Hurts, I think that Lamar Jackson has a higher floor of attempts. I think that Trey Lance, of that trio of really high value running quarterbacks, has the lowest floor in terms of his pass attempt. Okay. I'm going to say this again a little bit slower because I know somebody's going to try and hit me in the replies. And so you said that Trey Lance has the lowest floor of that three for passing attempts, meaning I expect him to throw the ball not a lot of times. However, when he throws it, he's probably going to go deep. We're looking at like a situation where they're going to bring the safeties in, 8 in the box at all times, 4-6 defense type of builds at all times for everybody who's playing against San Francisco 49ers for as much as they project to run the ball this season with Mitchell and Debo and Trey Lance. You're looking at a 40 to 50 rush attempt team. If they play from ahead, based on how they've played from ahead with Shanahan as the coach, once they get up, if they're up at halftime, that ball is not going anywhere in the second half. So the pace of play from San Francisco is going to be entirely slow. That defense is going to be ridiculous this year, and they're going to play to their strengths, which is going to be defense and running the football and taking shots over the top of Brandon Ayuk and allowing players like Debo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle to catch short passes at or behind the line of scrimmage, within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, and then see if they can use their fantastic skill at breaking tackles and yards after the catch to get downfield. And that's how Trey Lance is going to have to pile up passing stats. Problem is, if he only throws it 16 to 23 times a game, it's going to be entirely difficult for him to be a guy who on a week in, week out basis is going to win you tournaments or compete to win you tournaments. It doesn't mean it's impossible, right? But a game like this one against Chicago, where Chicago does not project to they want to be a running the ball team too. This projects to be a very slow, sluggy, bully ball game where Trey Lance can get there on value at 6,000. He may end up being like one of the top cash game quarterbacks from a points per salary point of view. But for tournaments, you all are going to have to convince me of how I can get to a Trey Lance lineup that's going to have enough that's going to come along with it, both from his team and the Chicago side, to warrant playing him in tournaments in week one. I'm just not there. Maybe I'll get there. I'm trying to talk about every quarterback, because I know that if I don't, somebody's going to say, you didn't talk about this quarterback. Curious. Derek Carr, another player in one of those high total games, 5,900, a way to get off of the higher dollar, probably a little bit more chalky plays, but still have access to a player with really good passing targets to throw to with Renfro and Waller, and obviously Devontae Adams. He now has a bevy of wide receivers in a game where they should be chasing an extremely high-powered Los Angeles offense. Another game in a dome, super fast track, really high total in this spot. 5,900 for Carr. Not going to provide you the rushing floor in cash games that a lot of the other quarterbacks are going to give you, but for tournaments, I do like this play so that you can get access to both sides in what should be a high-scoring affair. Now we get down a tier, okay? Those are the guys that I think are going to be the most talked about and most played quarterbacks in week one, but now we come down a tier into like here where Tannehill, Tags, Lawrence, Fields, Matt Ryan, of this group, you put Wentz in there as well going up against Jacksonville. Of this group, Matt Ryan's probably my favorite quarterback. I'm going to get nothing from him on the absolutely nothing, and I know that. Pointing at what he did last year behind the horrific offensive line and not a whole lot of talent to throw to in the passing game is a lot different than when you're going to be playing from ahead, again, in a dome situation in Houston, not a very good defense, with 8 in the box and single coverage on the outside to everybody's favorite breakout wide receiver, Pittman. He's got big targets at wide receiver or at tight end and at wide receiver to throw to once they get in close. And play action is something that he is, one, quite good at, and two, a lot more accurate. Throws a more catchable ball than does Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz fed his receivers poorly last year. Matt Ryan last year was not bad. He just did not have, like, and I all respect to Kyle Pitts, but like a rookie tight end lined up against cornerbacks is not going to win as much as, you know, if Calvin Ridley was there manning the outside and Pitts is lined up on safeties and linebacker. It was just a really bad situation all around. I think Matt Ryan sees a pretty big bounce back season. I think that the Colts win a bunch of games. And if everybody is going to pile on to the running back in this situation, because that's what's going to happen, right? 1, really high team total. 2, the number 1.01 pick at running back on this team in a game where a really bad defense and their favorite, highest favorite or biggest favorite on the slate, everybody's going to flock to that running back. Well, Indy's going to get up a lot and then they're just going to run the ball, which could be true. But like, is there any situation where they get up a lot because Matt Ryan has 3 or 4 passing touchdowns? Like, is there any world, if they played this game 100 times, is Jonathan Taylor going to be the only guy? If they score 35 points, is he going to have 5 touchdowns? Probably not. Yeah, there's some of the games where he might, out of you've simulated the game 1,000 times, but like realistically speaking, some of those simulations, he's going to have 120 yards, 25 carries, maybe 1 touchdown, maybe 1 receiving touchdown, and Pittman's going to have a touchdown or 2, and Mo Alley Cox is going to catch 1. Somebody else on the team, somebody's going to end up catching a touchdown. And you have many situations where Matt Ryan can have an extremely efficient first half, throw for 2 or 3 touchdown passes and 250 yards. And at 5,500, that's really all you need, especially as a leverage play off of Jonathan Taylor, to get you a differentiated lineup. Justin Fields provides you with a floor, but a really, really, really low total here. Really projects as a slow game. Trevor Lawrence, I kind of like Trevor Lawrence. I think that he could, he's obviously as pedigreed a quarterback as he is, and as many people are tagging him to be a breakout candidate for this year. He looked really good in his preseason game so far. I think that pedigree is going to start showing and shining through his second season, and they did upgrade the wide receiver group. No matter whether or not you think that they overpaid for Christian Kirk, no matter what you think of the rest of the receiving core, at least it's now a professional receiving core, and if they can get talent over the next couple of years out of the draft, young talent to play around Trevor Lawrence, at least there is situations with this team where he has players that can win. Evan Ingram's another spot that I think can win because he was utilized very poorly the last 2 seasons on the Giants, and they're using him completely differently, deploying him completely differently in this Jacksonville Jaguars offense this year versus where he was with the Giants last year. And I know that even saying the name Evan Ingram makes people they vomit in their mouth just a little bit. I get it. But like, if he gets deployed in the similar way to the way tight ends Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert got deployed in Peterson's offense before, he could have a really solid year. I'm not saying like a top 5 tight end year, but he could have a very solid year, which allows him to provide Trevor Lawrence with a talented pass catcher who is impossible for linebackers and safeties to guard, along with Christian Kirk, who's going to spend a lot of time in the slot, MJJ on the outside. I'm saying there's ways for Trevor Lawrence to win, and I don't hate the play in week 1. Tua, I love him as a tournament play, but I don't know if there's that many paths to him winning tournaments. He's just going to be really low played, and you're going to get some differentiation. I don't love having 3-4 parts of this game, but Tyreek Hill, somebody who can break open a game by himself. We know that Waddle is also a tremendous talent. Question is who you're going to bring it back with on New England, whether it's going to be Jacoby Myers. And I think that this team under McDaniel, I think that their coach is going to attempt to run a very similar offense to what they ran in San Francisco, which gives you a little bit lower floor, less pass attempts, a lot of rushing attempts, play slow and methodical, especially with the defense that Miami has. Jared Goff and Detroit, sure, they're on Hard Knocks, so like people are going to play them, right? Jared Goff is not a terrible quarterback for fantasy, and Detroit at home should get a bit of a bump here against Philly, but like not that big of a bump, right? Like this is a passing offense that is going to be a little bit thin. They want to thrive on running the football, but they do have a talented pass catching back. Anybody can win you $1 million, right? We kind of have to admit that even though they might be a thinner tournament play, like Jameis Winston. Last year, Davis Mills won a Millionaire Maker. Baker Mayfield won a Millionaire Maker. Mike White won a Millionaire Maker in a week when nobody knew who Mike White was. So I guess like maybe revenge game Baker Mayfield at 5,300 for the Panthers. We know that they've got talent on the outside and a healthy Christian McCaffrey, at least right now, knock wood, right? Baker Mayfield has Anderson, has Moore, has Christian McCaffrey. Very easy to double stack him if you wanted to go that route. If you think that revenge game, you think he's going to try harder because it's against Cleveland and Cleveland is going to have somebody on the other side to bring it back with. But like every one of these games, DraftKings did a very, 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 very good job at pricing the players kind of based on team totals and speed for week 1. So there's not a lot of super glaring spots to go to. Lawrence probably at this point, one of my favorite tournament plays. Another one would be in this game right here from the New York Giants. Daniel Jones looked exceptional in his last preseason game. completed 14 of 16 passes for 116 yards. No touchdowns, obviously, threw an interception because, you know, that's what he does. We know where the ball's going to go, and some of the places that the ball's going to go, like Kadarius Toney or Wan'Dale Robinson, are very, very explosive players. So when you get players like that surrounded by or surrounding a quarterback who does give you rushing upside in an offense that should throw the ball 600 to 650 times this year, now we have a quarterback at 5,000 on DraftKings that might end up being the #1 GPP play type quarterback with not a lot of people on him in kind of a low scoring game. This is the type of quarterback that I want to bet on for GPPs. Can give me something with his legs, has to throw the ball effectively for them to score a lot of points and exceed and come in at a very low total for his percentage in tournaments and his stacks in tournaments. And we know where the ball is going to go on Tennessee. Not a lot of offensive players that are going to play there. If New York can flip the script here and play from ahead in this game, it forces Tennessee to throw, which gives us a lot better paths to go to. Otherwise, it could be just a lot of Derrick Henry and then Daniel Jones having to chase from behind, forcing 45 pass attempts. You know where those balls are going to go in the second half because there's not a lot of players on New York that are going to catch the ball. So I hope you guys like this video. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, look for another one right there.
He's a legend.